नीच देह मोर पदुक तव आगे, यही वांछा सिद्धि मोर तुमाती लागे. Let this low-born body fall down before you. You can make possible this perfection of all my desires. प्रभु कहे हरिदास यही तुम्ही मागिबे, कृष्ण कृपामय तहा अवश्य करिबे. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my dear Haridas, Krishna is so merciful that he must execute whatever you want. किंतु हमारे यही किछु सुख सब तोमालान तुम्हारा योग्य नहीं यब अमार छाड़िया. But whatever happiness is mine is all due to your association. It is so not fitting for you to go away and leave me behind. चरणे धोरी कोहे हरिदास ना करिह माया, अवश्य मोह अधमे प्रभु कर यही दाया. Catching the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur said, my Lord, do not create an illusion. Although I am so fallen, you must certainly show me this mercy. Mora Shiromani Kata Kata Mahashoy, Tumara Lilara Sahai, Koti Bhakta Hoy. My Lord, there are many respectable personalities, millions of devotees who are fit to sit on my head. They are all helpful in your pastimes. आमा हेन यदि एक कीत मर गेला, एक पापालिका महिला पृथ्वी कहा हेन हैला हानि हैला. So he is saying, आमा हेन यदि एक कीट मरी गेला, एक कीट, a small insect like me dies, एक पापालिका महिला, पापालिका is an ant, पृथ्वीर कहा हैना हानि हैला. So he says, my Lord, if an insignificant insect like me dies, what is the loss? If an ant dies, where is the loss to the material world? Bhakta Vatsala Prabhu tumi mui bhakta bhash avashya purabe Prabhu morayi as. My Lord, you are always affectionate to your devotees. I am just an imitation devotee, but nevertheless, I wish that you fulfill my desire. That is my expectations. मध्यान करिता प्रभु चालीला आपाने, ईश्वर दखिया काल दिबेन दुसाने. Because he had to perform his noon duties, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got up to leave, but it was settled that the following day, after he saw Lord Jagannath, he would return to visit Haridas Thakur. तब महाप्रभु तानेर करी आलिंगन, मध्यान करिते समुद्र करिला गमन. After embracing him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left to perform his noon duties and went to the sea to take his bath. प्रातः काले ईश्वर देखी सब भक्त लान, हरिदासे देखीते आइला शीघ्र करिया. The next morning, after visiting Lord Jagannath temple, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, accompanied by all his devotees, went hastily to see Haridas Thakur. Haridaser आगे आसी दिल दर्शन, हरिदास वंदिला प्रभुर आर वैष्णव चरण. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the devotees came before Haridas Thakur, who offered his respects to the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas. Prabhu कहे हरिदास कह समाचार, हरिदास कहे प्रभु ये कृपा तुम्हार. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired, my dear Haridas, what is the news? Haridas Thakur replied, my Lord, whatever mercy you can bestow upon me. अंगे आरंभिला प्रभु महासंकीर्तन, आंगने आरंभिला प्रभु महासंकीर्तन, वक्रेश्वर पंडित तहा करेन नर्तन. So upon hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately began great congregational chanting in the courtyard. Vakreshwar Pandit was a chief dancer. Swarupa Gosai Adi Yata Prabhura Gana, Haridase Bedi Kare Nama Sankirtan. Headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu surrounded Haridas Thakur and began congregational chanting. Ramananda Sarvabhauma Sabara Agrete Haridaser guna Prabhu lagila kahite. In front of all the great devotees like Ramananda Rai and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to describe the holy attributes of Sri Haridas Thakur. Haridaser guna kahite Prabhu hoila panchamukha, kahite kahite Prabhura bada mahasukha. As he described the transcendental attributes of Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seemed to possess 5 mouths. The more he described, the more his great happiness increased. Haridasera guna sabara vismita hai mana sarva bhakta vande Haridasera charana. After hearing of the transcendental qualities of Haridas Thakur, all the devotees present were struck with wonder. They all offered their respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Haridasa nijagrete prabhura vasila nija netra dui bringa mukha padme dila. Haridas Thakur made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sit down in front of him, and then he fixed his eyes like 2 bumblebees on the lotus feet of the Lord. Now is actually the passing away of Lord of Haridas Thakur. Hear carefully. Swarudaye ani dharila prabhur charan sarva bhakta pada renu mastaka bhushan. He held the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on his heart and then took the dust of the feet of all the devotees present and put it on his head. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shabda Bolena Bar Bar Prabhu Mukha Madhuri Piye Netra Jaladhar. He began to chant the holy names of Sri Krishna Chaitanya again and again. As he drank the sweetness of the face of Lord, tears constantly glided down from his eyes. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shabda Karite Uchcharan Namera Sahita Prana Kaila Utkraman. While chanting the holy name of Shri Krishna Chaitanya, he gave up his air of life and left his body. Mahayogeshwara Praya Dekhi Swachhande Maran Bhishmera Niryana Sabara Haila Smaran. Seeing the wonderful death of Haridas Thakur by his own will, which was just like a great mystic yogis, everyone remembered the passing away of Bhishma Dev. Hari Krishna Sabha Shabde Sabha Kare Kolahal Premanande Mahaprabhu Hoila Vibhaval. There was a tumultuous noise as they all chanted the holy names. Hari Hari Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became overwhelmed with ecstatic love. Haridasera Tanu Prabhu Koila Laina Uthana Angane Nachena Prabhu Premavishthahana. The Lord raised the body of Haridas Thakur and placed it on his laps. Then he began to dance in the courtyard in great ecstasy. Prabhura Avesha Avasha Sarva Bhaktagan Premaveshe Shabe Nache Karena Kirtan. Because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love, all devotees were helpless, and in ecstatic love, they also began to dance and chant congregationally. Yahi mate nritya Prabhu koila kathak kshan Swarupa Gosai Prabhur Karila Savadhan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced for some time, and then Swarup Damodar Goswami informed him of other rituals for the holy body of Thakur Haridas. Haridasa Thakure Taba Vimane Chadana Samudra Lana Gela Taba Kirtana Kariya. The body of Haridas Thakur was then raised onto a carrier that resembled an airship and taken to the sea, accompanied by congregational chanting. Those of us who had gone to Mayapur Yatra and Jagannathpur Yatra, you remember we had all gone to the close to the beach where the Samadhi of Haridas Thakur is. आगे महाप्रभु चले न नृत्य करीते करीते पाछे नृत्य करे वक्रेश्वर भक्त गण साथे. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in front of the procession, and Vakreshwar Pandit along with the other devotees chanted and danced behind him. Haridase samudra jala snana karaila Prabhu kahe samudra yahi mahatirtha haila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed the body of Haridas Thakur in the sea and then declared, from this day on, this sea has become a great pilgrimage site. Haridaser Padodoka Piya Bhaktagan Haridaser Ange Dila Prasada Chandan. So everyone drank the water that had touched the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. And then they smeared remnants of Lord Jagannath's sandalwood pulp over Haridas Thakur's body. Dora Kodara Prasada Vastre Ange Dila Valu Kara Garta Kori Tahe Solya Ila. After a hole was dug in the sand, the body of Haridas Thakur was placed into it. Remnants from Lord Jagannath, such as his silken robes, sandalwood pulp, food, and clothes were placed on the body. Chari dekhe bhakta gana karena kirtan, Vakreshwara Pandit karena anand nartan. All around the body, the devotees performed congregational chanting, and Vakreshwar Pandit danced in jubilation. Hari bola, bole Gaurarai, Apani Shri Haste, Valu Dila Tanar Gai. With a transcendental hand, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand, chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Tandre Valu Diya Upar Pind Bandhaila, Chaudi ke Pindera Maha Avrana Kaila. The devotees covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand and then consecrated a platform upon the side. The platform was protected all around by fencing. Taha Bedi Prabhu Kaila Kirtana Nartan Hari Dhvani Kolahale Bharila Bhuvan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and chanted all around the platform, and as the holy name of the Lord roared tumultuously, the whole universe became filled with the vibrations. Tabe Mahaprabhu Sabha Bhakta Gana Sange Samudra Karila Snana Jalakeli Range. After Sankirtan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed in the sea with his devotees, swimming and playing in the water in great jubilation. Haridase Pradakshina Kari Aila Simhadware Hari Kirtan Kolahal Sakala Nagare. After circumambulating the Pradakshina, the tomb of Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the Simhadwar gate of Sri Jagannath temple. Simhadwar gate is from where we also went inside. The whole city chanted in congregation, and the tumultuous sound vibrated all over the city. Simhadware Ashi Prabhu Pasharira Thani Anchala Pataiya Prasada Magila Tathai. Approaching the Simhadwar gate, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread his cloth and began to beg prasad from all the shopkeepers there. You know, Anand Bazar, no? There it must be. Haridasa Thakurera Maha Mahotsavera Tare Prasada Magiya Bhiksha Dehata Amare. I am begging prasadam for a festival honoring the passing away of Haridas Thakur. The Lord said, please give me alms. Suniya Pasari Saba Changada Uthana Prasada Dita Ase Tara Anandita Hana. Hearing this, all the shopkeepers immediately came forward with big baskets of prasadam, which they jubilantly delivered to Lord Chaitanya. Swarupa Gosai Pashari ke Nise Dhila Changada Langa Pasari Pasare Vasila. However, Swarup Damodar stopped them, and the shopkeepers returned to their shops and sat down with their baskets. Swarupa Gosai Prabhura Ghara Pathaila Chari Vaishnava Chari Pichada Sange Rakhaila Rakila. Swarup Damodar sent Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to his residence and kept with him 4 Vaishnavas and 4 servant carriers. Swarupa Gosai Kahila Sabapa Sharire Eka Dravera Eka Puja Daha More. Swarup Damodar said to all the shopkeepers, deliver to me 4 palmfuls of prasadam from each and every item. Yahi mata nana prasada bhoja bandhana lana aila chari janera mastaka chandana chadhana. In this way, varieties of prasadam were collected, then packed up in different loads and carried on the heads of the 4 servants. Vaninatha Pattanayak प्रसाद आणिला, काशी मिश्रा अनेक प्रसाद पाठाईला. Not only did Swarup Damodar Gosai bring prasadam, but Vaninath Patnayak and Kashi Mishra also sent large quantities. Sabha Vaishnave Prabhu Vasila Sari Sari, Apane Pariveshe Prabhu Lana Janachari. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made all the devotees to sit in rows and personally began to distribute the prasadam, assisted by 4 other men. Mahaprabhu Shri Haste Alpana Aise एक एक पाठ पंच जनार भक्ष परिश्वे. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not accustomed to taking prasadam in small quantities. He therefore put on each plate what at least 5 men could eat. Swarupa kahe Prabhu Vasi karah darshan ami inha sabalana kori pariveshan. Swarup Damodar Goswami requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please sit down and watch. With these men to help me, I shall distribute the prasadam. Swarupa Jagadananda Kashishwara Shankarachari Jana Parivesha Kara Nirantara. The 4 men, Swarup Damodar, Jagadanand, Kashishwar and Shankar, distributed the prasadam continuously. Prabhu na kahile keha na kare bhojan, Prabhura se dina kashi mishrera ni mantran. All the devotees who sat down would not eat the prasadam as long as the Lord had not eaten. On that day, however, Kashi Mishra had extended an invitation to the Lord. Apane Kashi Mishra aila prasada lana, Prabhura bhiksha karila agraha kariya. Therefore, Kashi Mishra personally went there and delivered prasadam to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great attention and made him eat. Puri Bharatira Sange Prabhu Bhiksha Kaila Sakala Vaishnava Tabe Bhojana Karila. With Paramananda Puri and Brahmananda Bharati, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down and accepted the prasadam. When he began to eat, so did all the Vaishnavas. Akanta Purana Sabaya Karila Bhojan Deha Deha Bali Prabhu Balena Vachan. Everyone was filled up to the neck because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept telling the distributors, give them more, give them more. Bhojana kariya sab kaila achaman, sabare paraila Prabhu malya chandan. After all the devotees finished accepting prasadam and had washed their hands and mouths, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decorated each of them with a flower garland and sandalwood pulp. Prema vista Hana Prabhu Karena Varadan Shuni Bhakta Ganera Judaya Manasakam. Overwhelmed with ecstatic love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered a benediction to all devotees, which all the devotees heard with great satisfaction. Now, what is the benediction? Hear carefully. Haridasera Vijayotsav Ye Kaila Darshan Ye Ihan Nritya Kaila Ye Kaila Kirtan Ye Tare वालुका दीता कोरिला गमन तार मध्ये महोत्सवे ये कैला भोजन आचिरे ह इबे ता साबार कृष्ण प्राप्ति हरिदास दर्शने होय ऐसे शक्ति. Now see what blessings Lord Chaitanya is giving. He says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this benediction. Anyone who has seen the festival of Haridas Thakur's passing away, anyone who has chanted and danced here, anyone who has offered sand on the body of Haridas Thakur, and anyone who has joined the festival to partake of the prasadam will achieve the favor of Krishna very soon. There is such wonderful power in sing Haridas Thakur. Kripa kari Krishna more diya chile sanga swatantra Krishnera ichha kaila sanga bhanga. Being merciful upon me, Krishna gave me the association of Haridas Thakur. Being independent in his desires, he has now broken that association. Haridasera ichha yebe haila chalite, amara shakti tare narila rukte. When Haridas Thakur wanted to leave this material world, it was not within my power to detain him. I'll read once again, the blessings that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. It is very important. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his benediction. Anyone who has seen the festival of Sri Haridas Thakur's passing away, Anyone who has chanted and danced here, anyone who has offered sand on the body of Haridas Thakur, and anyone who has joined this festival to partake of the prasadam will achieve the favor of Krishna very soon. This is such wonderful power in seeing Haridas Thakur. Continuing ahead. इच्छा मात्रे कैला निज प्राण निष्क्रमण पूर्वे येन शूनियाची simply by his will Haridas Thakur could give up his life and go away exactly like Bhishma, who previously tried simply by his own desire, as we have heard from Shastra. Haridasa Achila Prithvi Shiromani Taha Vina Ratna Shunya Haila Medini. Haridas Thakur was the crown jewel on the head of this world. Without him, this world is now bereft of its valuable jewel. Jaya Jaya Haridas Bali Kara Hari Dhwani Eto Boli Mahaprabhu Nachena Apani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told everyone, say all glories to Haridas Thakur and chant the holy name of Hari. Saying this, he personally began to dance. Sabe Gaya Jaya 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 Haridas Namera Mahima Yena Karila Prakash. Everyone began to chant all glories to Haridas Thakur, who revealed the importance of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Tabe Mahaprabhu Sabha Bhakta Vidaya Dila Harsha Vishade Prabhu Vishama Korila. Thereafter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to all the devotees, and he himself was mixed with mixed feelings of happiness and distress, took rest. Ita Kahilun Haridasera Vijaya Yahara Shravane Krishna Drida Bhakti Hoy. Thus I have spoken about the victorious passing away of Haridas Thakur. Anyone who hears this narration will certainly fix his mind firmly in devotional service of Krishna. Chaitanya Bhakta Vatsala Ihate Jani Bhakta Vancha Purna Kaila Nyasi Shiromani. From the incident of Haridas Thakur passing away and the great care Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took in commemorating it, one can understand just how affectionate he is towards his devotees. Although he is the topmost of all sannyasis, he fully satisfied the desire of Haridas Thakur. Shesha Kale Dila Tare Darshan Sparshan Tare Kole Keri Koila Apane Nartan. When Haridas Thakur was at the last stage of his life, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him his company and followed him to touch him. Thereafter, he took the body of Haridas Thakur on his lap and personally danced with it. Apane Shri Haste Kripaya Taner Valu Dila Apane Prasada Magi Mohotsava Kaila. Out of his causeless mercy, the Lord personally covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand and personally begged alms, bhiksha, from the shopkeepers. Then he conducted a great festival to celebrate the passing away of Haridas Thakur. Mahabhagavata Haridas Parama Vidwan Yei Saubhagye Lagi Age Korila Prayan. Haridas Thakur was not only the topmost devotee of the Lord, but also a great and learned scholar. It was his great fortune that he passed away before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Charita Yai Amrita Sindhu, Amritera Sindhu, Karna Mana Tripta Kare Yara Eka Bindu. The life, see such a beautiful shloka. It says, Chaitanya Charitra Yai Amritera Sindhu, Karna Mana Tripta Kare Yara Eka Bindu. The life and characteristics of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are exactly like an ocean of nectar, one drop of which can please the mind and ear. Chaitanyera Charitra Ei Amritera Sindhu, Karna Mana Tripta Kare Yara Eka Sindhu. Next. Bhava Sindhu Tari Bare Ache Yara Chitta, Shraddha Kari Shuna Sei Chaitanya Charitra. Anyone who desires to cross over the ocean of nuisance, means this material world, please hear with great faith the life and characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Ar As Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahe Krishna Das, praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Goswami, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antilila, 11th chapter, describing the passing away of Sri Haridas Thakur. So it's such a wonderful and beautiful pastime of the Lord. So with this we are over. Now we will read the glories of Utrada Ekadashi, which is today. Hope that all of us are observing Ekadashi either without water or then with water or with whatever, but observing Ekadashi somehow or the other. So I'll read the glories of Utrada Ekadashi. Utrada Ekadashi, the pious and saintly Yudhishthir Maharaj said, O Lord, you have so nicely explained to us the wonderful glories of the Safala Ekadashi, which is the one behind, which occurs during the dark fortnight, Krishna Paksha of the month of Paushya, December, January. Now please be merciful to me and explain to me the details of the Ekadashi that occurs in the light fortnight, Shukla or Gaura Paksha. Of this month, what is its name, and what deity is to be worshipped on that sacred day? O Purushottama, O Rishikesha, please also tell me how you can be pleased on this day. Lord Sri Krishna then replied, O saintly king, for the benefit of all humanity, I shall now tell you how to observe fasting on Paushya Shukla Ekadashi. As previously explained, everyone should observe the rules and regulations of Ekadashi Vrata to the very best of their ability. This injunction also applies to the Ekadashi named Utrada, which is today, which destroys all sins and elevates one to the spiritual abode. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Narayan, the original personality, is worshipable deity of the Ekadashi, and for his faithful devotees, he happily fulfills all desires and awards full perfection. Thus, among all the animate and inanimate beings in these three worlds, lower, middle, higher planetary systems, there is no better personality than Lord Narayan. O King, now I shall narrate to you the history of Utrada Ekadashi, which removes all kinds of sins and makes one famous and learned. There was once a kingdom named Bhadravati, which was ruled by King Suketaman. His queen was the famous Shaibya. Because he had no son, he spent a long time in anxiety, thinking, if I have no son, who will carry on my dynasty? In this way, the king meditated in a religious attitude for a very long time, thinking, where should I go? What should I do? How can I get a pious son, Putra? In this way, King Suketuman could find no happiness anywhere in his kingdom, even in his own palace, and soon he was spending more and more time inside his wife's palace, gloomily thinking only of how he could get a son. Thus both King Suketuman and Queen Shaibya were in great distress. Even when they offered tarpana, oblations of water to their forefathers, their mutual misery made them think that it was as undrinkable as boiling water. They thus thought that they would have no descendants to offer tarpana to them when they died, and thus become lost souls, ghosts. The king and the queen were especially upset to learn that their forefathers were worried that soon there would be no one to offer them tarpana also. After learning of their forefathers' unhappiness, the king and the queen became more and more miserable, and neither ministers nor friends nor even loved ones could cheer them up. To the king, his elephants and horses and infantry were no solace, and at last he became practically inert and helpless. The king thought to himself, it is sad that without a son, marriage is wasted. Indeed, for a family man with no son, both his heart and his splendid house remain vacant and miserable. Bereft of a son, a man cannot liquidate the debts that he owes his forefathers, the demigods, that is the devatas, and to other human beings. Therefore, every married man should endeavor to beget a son. Thus, he will become famous within this world and at last attain the auspicious celestial realms. A son is a proof of a pious activity, of the pious activities a man performed in his past 100 lifetimes. And as such, a person achieves a long duration of life in this world, along with good health and great wealth. Possessing sons and grandsons in this lifetime proves that one has worshipped Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the past. The great blessing of sons, wealth, and sharp intelligence can be achieved only by worshipping the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. That is my opinion. Thinking thus, the king had no pace. He remained in anxiety day and night, from morning to evening, and from the time he lay down to sleep at night until the sun rose in the morning. His dreams were equally full of great anxiety. Suffering such constant anxiety and apprehension, King Suketuman decided to end his misery by committing suicide. But he realized that suicide throws a person into hellish conditions of rebirth, and so he abandoned that idea. Seeing that he was gradually destroying himself by his all-consuming anxiety over the lack of a son, the king at last mounted his horse and left for the dense forest alone. No one, not even the priests and the Brahmins of the palace, knew where he had gone. In that forest, which was filled with deer and birds and other animals, King Sikhotuman wandered aimlessly, noting all the different kinds of trees and shrubs, such as fig, bale fruit, date palm, jackfruit, bakula, saptaparna, tinduka, and tilaka, as well as the shala, tala, tamala, sharala, hingota, arjuna, labhera, baheda, solaki, karonda, patala, khaira, shaka, palasha trees. All were beautifully decorated with fruits and flowers. He saw deer, tiger, wild boar, lions, monkeys, snakes, huge bull elephants in Arut, cow elephants with their calves, and four-tusked elephants with their mates close by. There were cows, jackals, rabbits, leopards, and hippopotamus. Beholding all these animals accompanied by their mates and offspring, the king remembered his own meagre, especially his palace elephants, and became so sad that he absent-mindedly wandered into their very midst. Suddenly, the king heard a jackal howl at a distance. Startled, he began wandering about, looking around in all directions. Soon it was midday, and the king started to tire. He was tormented by hunger in the distance. Hunger and thirst also. He thought, what sinful deeds could possibly have done so that I am now forced to suffer like this? With my throat parched and burning and my stomach empty and rumbling, I have pleased the devas with numerous fire sacrifices and abundant devotional worship. I have given many gifts and delicious sweets in charity to all the worthy Brahmins too, and I have taken care of my subjects as though they were my very own children. Why then am I suffering so? What unknown sins have come to bear fruit and torment me in this dreadful way? Absorbed in these thoughts, King Suketuman struggled forward, and eventually, due to his pious credits, he came upon a beautiful lotus-bearing pond that resembled the famous lake Manasarovar. It was filled with aquatics, including crocodiles and many varieties of fish, and graced with varieties of lilies and lotuses. The beautiful lotuses had opened to the sun, and swans, cranes, and ducks swam happily in its waters. Nearby were many attractive ashrams, where there resided many saints and sages who could fulfill the desires of anyone. Indeed, they wished everyone well. When the king saw all this, his right arm and right eye began to quiver, a Shakuna sign for a male that something auspicious was about to happen. As the king dismounted his horse and stood before the sages who sat on the shore of the pond, he saw they were chanting the holy names of God on japa beads. The king paid his obeisances and, joining his palms, addressed them with glorified praises. Observing the respect the king Observing the respect the king offered them, the sages said, "We are very pleased with you. O king, kindly tell us why you have come here. What is on your mind? Please inform us what is your heart's desire." The king replied, "O great sages, who are you? What are your names? Surely your presence reveals that you are auspicious saints. Why have you come to this beautiful place? Please tell me everything." The sages replied, "O king, we are known as the 10 Vishwadevas, the sons of Vishwa, Vasu, Satya, Kratu, Daksha, Kala, Kama, Drishti, Pururava, Madrava, and Kuru. We have come here to this very lovely pond and to bathe. The month of Magh, Madhava Mas, will soon be here in 5 days from the Magha Nakshatra. And today is the famous Utrada Ekadashi. One who desires a son should strictly observe this particular Ekadashi. The king said, "I have tried so hard to have a son. If your great sages are pleased with me, kindly grant the boon of having a good son, Putra." The very meaning of Putrada Eka, the king said, the very meaning of Putrada, the sages replied, is giver of a putra, pious son. So please observe a complete fast on this Ekadashi day. If you do so, then by our blessing and by the mercy of Lord Sri Keshava invested in us, surely you will obtain a son. On the advice of the Vishwadevas, the king observed the auspicious fast day of Utrada Ekadashi according to the established rules and regulations. And on the Dwadashi, after breaking his fast, he paid obeisances again and again to all of them. Soon after, Suketuman returned to his palace and united with his queen. Queen Shaibya immediately became pregnant, and exactly as the Vishwadevas had predicted, a bright-faced, beautiful son was born to them. In due course of time, he became famous as an heroic prince, and the king gladly pleased his noble son by making him his successor. The son of Suketuman took care of his subjects very consciously, just as if they were his own children. In conclusion, O Yudhishthira, one who wishes to fulfill his desires should strictly observe Putrada Ekadashi. While on